Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Kickstarter podcast. So today I have a guest who I'm actually very good friends with, a guy called Tim Tavender. So as always, I'll let the guests introduce themselves. So Tim, do you want to tell people a brief rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, man. It's great to be here, talking like this, formally. Yeah, my name's Tim Tavender. I'm a digital marketer. I guess I would always be as broad as that, because I get involved in a lot of different things in that genre. But yeah, I like to keep it mysterious. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, we'll dig into that. A man of mystery, I like that. That's keeping up the marketing illusion.
That's right.
So I hesitate to say talk us through the journey, but have you always been a digital marketer? Obviously at one stage you were a baby, but since then, what's been the journey?
Well, I did the whole university thing, and I remember very clearly, actually, I worked for this company straight out of, actually, rewind. I worked for my parents' company out of university. So I went to work for them, and they were like, had a catering equipment business. So doing all maintenance and servicing of stuff all around schools around Hampshire. And I came out of university, I was like, do you do any sales and marketing? They were like, no. I said, well, do you mind if I ever go? They were like, yeah, sure. So they just relied on contracts before, just pure like renewal of contracts. So I got involved in that, and I was like, trying to sell fryers that go in school kitchens or things like that, ovens. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to sell one at a time. So I started thinking, right, I could sell kitchens, or whole kitchens. So I got involved in that. I managed to get some reasonable sized contracts, and probably fast forward about 6 or 8 months, I'd learned how to use CAD. I was designing kitchens on CAD. I was like, these were like back in mid 90s, and I was designing these big kitchens, right? 50, 60, 70, 100 grand jobs. I was just 21 outside university, and I'd done a sports studies degree, right? And so it just sort of one of those things. I managed to sort of get in there with a few sort of really good contacts, and we grew that like to a point where it was actually the bigger part of their business. And I mean, there's a school around the corner from here that I drove past earlier, and I thought, oh, I did that school kitchen. And anyway, so I did that for a bit, and then decided, well, I didn't study for this. Went traveling, did all that kind of stuff. Came back, brief stint at another company in London, a gym, and then I started a fitness business in 2002. So I'm being very kind of overview here, very, very quick through it. And that was a personal training business. And so there was me and a partner. We've started up together. That business is still going. Right, so whatever it is, 22 years later, and I left it like probably 15 years ago, something like that, to then pursue some other things. And then I hit crossroads about 34, 35. What happened was, if you've got some fitness people, you probably have listening to this. You're up super early. You know, Mike, you used to do this yourself, right? You're up super early, 5 a.m., whatever. Off you go to your first couple of clients. You're out in the day for a bit. If you've got clients throughout the day regularly, then you know you sort of, you're working for every hour you're working. You're another hour traveling, and then I'd come back late, reasonably late at night, and I'd just met my now wife, and we was like ships on the night, weren't seeing each other. So I just decided, after a few things I tried in fitness. And we can talk about that later, to do with software, actually. I then decided, right, I'm getting out of this. And it was actually my wife that was sitting down talking about what I could do next. And I thought, I'm just a fitness trainer. I'd forgotten all that experience I had before in sales and marketing and doing all that kind of stuff. And she said, no, you've done all this. Like you've ranked your website number 1 in Google. You've managed a business. You've done all this. I was like, yeah. So then I got into the whole marketing thing. And that's where I've been for the last 15 years, yeah.
Nice. I think the burnt out thing, the personal trainer thing, that sort of comes up quite a lot when I speak to people about, I just need something different to do. And am I right in thinking, I'm setting myself up for an awkward pause here when this isn't you, but I'm right in thinking that you said there was like an epiphany moment once when you were on the way up to see a client in a lift or something, and you were like, I can't do this anymore?
Mate, yeah. I'm glad you paid attention.
There you go.
You just had this glazed look. I just thought you were doing something else.
No, it all goes in my notes about Tim, but...
Yeah, exactly. So I I was going up to see my last client of the day, right? They lived in a penthouse apartment in Winchester, lovely place, overlook the city, whatever. And I'd parked somewhere nearby, which is probably a good 10-minute walk, right? So at the time what I was doing, I had a big rucksack. It had all my weights in there, obviously loads of them.
Obviously.
I was like about 20 kilos.
Atlas stones, like 140 kilo bar.
Yeah, well, all that kind of stuff. And I had some boxing stuff, all that kind of stuff in there. And under my arm on the right, I had a big fit ball. And under my left, I had a Reebok step. That was my kind of kit I used to take around. And I was in this lift. And if you're in the States, that would be elevator. Lift. It's a massive mirror, right? And in those lifts, they're pretty confronting, aren't they? Because the lights are on the top. You look rubbish anyway, right? And I looked at myself and I looked tired, run down. The weights were pulling my shoulders down. And I just looked like, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those Snoopy cartoons where he's drenched in the rain. He's like, looks like he's had enough of life. And I just looked in the mirror. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And that was like an epiphany. I was like, I just can't do it. Done. And it wasn't like I'd gradually fallen out of love with doing that fitness kind of thing. And alongside that, another funny story, I said to myself all along, I will stop when I'm not as fit as my fittest client. And there was this moment where this guy, we were running, and he was a semi-pro footballer. And I was still quite fit at the time. What I used to do is I used to try and get him a bit knackered before we'd start running. So we'd do some he'd do some squats and stuff like that. I'd try and get him knackered. And we'd go for a run. And then he still sort of, I was still struggling and he was running. I thought, no, it's time to hang up the rucksack with the weights on it. And that epiphany moment in the lift. And also I was like, I'm not seeing my wife as much as I'd like to. And even at weekends, at the time I was playing reasonable standard of hockey. So I was doing a session in the morning, always late for hockey, which didn't go down too well. Just because I was trying to get from one session to there and so in the end that was it, stopped and went and did some marketing at an agency for about a year, doing SEO and search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, that kind of thing. And I learned quite a lot there. And then I went out on my own after about a year and a bit there and been doing that ever since. So, yeah.
I certainly think for me it was when I lost the buzz for doing training people. As in, I used to love it, and you always had the odd client who was a bit of a drain or whatever. But I almost felt guilty because I had clients who I really liked, and I was showing up to sessions thinking, I'm only giving this 70%. It's not fair on them. And part of the problem for me was I deliberately, for loyal clients, I'd kept rates lower and stuff. So part of me justified it by thinking, well, they're only paying that much for a session. Yeah. And then you think, but they're still paying me money to be an expert. And yeah, it's better than them doing nothing, me showing up a couple of times a week, but I'm not doing them a good service. So that was sort of the trigger for me to move out. So what was the transition like when you went into the sort of employed setting after that?
Oh yeah, that was hard. So what I'd done prior to that is I'd set up a company called Tim Will Fix It, but that was in 2011. No, I'd gone to. I was just looking for things to do, and at that time I thought I can only do fitness. That's all I've done. I've got a sports studies degree. Like I said, I forgot all about that stuff I'd done with my parents' business. Completely, it's like I set up a business inside their business, and I've forgotten about that. It was now that experience, kind of over years of doing. I say just being a personal trainer, and I say that having been one, that I devalued it myself. Mm-hmm. That I was still running a business. I was still 100% responsible for my own income, which when you think about it, whatever stage of business you're at, that's pretty good, right? But I didn't have that mindset then. I was thinking, I'm only a fitness trainer, what can I do? So I managed to get this job at Sporter. You remember that was it then became David Lloyd and Virgin Active or whatever, in sales, right? I lasted till Friday and I started on Monday. I just phoned him up in fact, I did Monday to Thursday. I phoned him up on Friday and said, I can't come in today. He's like, okay. I said, so it was just such a horrible thing. They were like, go and speak to all the members. And I remember going up to one of the members and saying, hi, I'm Tim, I work in sales. And he went, look, I've referred all my friends and family. I was like, well, hang on, let's just kind of say hello. And it was just the atmosphere of like high pressure sales. Nah, that's not me. And funnily enough, I phoned up and said, I can't do this. And then they phoned me back about a day later and offered me another job. And it was based on something I told them about doing some outreach. And they said, yeah, you could, we'll give you a car. You can basically pick that. And this is what they said, right? They said, you can pick 4 or 5 really hot girls to go into shopping malls and try and get people to, give them free passes.
You can tell this was prior to the Me Too movement.
Absolutely. I mean, when I think about it now, I turned it down purely on the basis that I was already taken and I didn't want to ruin it. But no, I'd say it was just not right for me. I didn't want to go driving around the countryside, still high pressuring people at this time in shopping malls. And it was just icky, right? Go and hire hot girls, whatever. So I lasted there till that Friday, left. And then, like I say, sitting down with my wife talking about it, and she was really fantastic at going, look, these are your skill sets, like really transferable skills. And I zoned in on marketing. I was able to go to this interview with this very established marketing agency. And they were like, well, you've got no experience in this. And I said, well, this is what I've done. And they were like, well, let's have a look at your website then. So I sat there, and in the meeting with all these people around me, they're like, right, search for personal trainer in whatever location it was, I think Southampton or something at the time. And there's this guy called Mike Samuels there. He was number 2, and I was number 1. And they were like, "Oh, all right, well, we can see from what you've done, you know what you're doing. You just don't know all the terminology yet." So they took a chance on me, which was great, and it was kind of like an internship. I was at 35 going backwards, and it felt a bit hard to do that. But I knew that. I remember going home talking to my wife after about a month of doing it, saying, "This is the future." I couldn't see myself being an old personal trainer. Not then. I mean, now I could definitely see how you could. That's because I am old, right? But back then I was thinking I didn't want to be older, still trying to train younger people. Obviously, now I think the biggest market for personal trainers is over 50s. So that's my belief anyway. So I then went into the marketing thing, and that was 2009. And obviously what I noticed actually was the pace of change in that industry. When I was a fitness trainer, reading textbooks that were written in 1974 about fitness, and things have moved on a lot in fitness now, especially with nutrition. But with digital marketing at the time, I was like, wow, the pace of change here was just insane, and it remains to be that way.
So what was the journey then to kind of going out on your own and doing more stuff? Because I know, was it Paul you worked with initially, or do you have more people before you started helping him out with stuff?
So what happened was with the agency, I left. We had a bit of a disagreement with how they'd what they'd said about, and if they're listening to this, which I don't imagine they would be, but if they were, my time there was great. It was brilliant. But when it came down to you said after this amount of time then this would happen and it didn't materialise, I was given an ultimatum and I took door number 2, which was leave. So and because I'd been self-employed for so long at that point, I was like, you get a bit unemployable really. Although it was great there, it's fine, go to work every day, don't worry about it in the evening, whatever. But I just spent a lot of time when I was working there doing other things. I mentioned the software. So now PT software is huge. There's loads of companies out there. Back then, I'd licensed the software with this company. They were part of Prudential Health, and they were going into the fitness market. And I'd licensed this software which basically wrote fitness programs, and it was rudimentary compared to what you can do now. And I got Hampshire County Council agreed to taking it on. I'd got there's a company over the road from here in Grosvenor Square. They had 200 people they were going to put onto it, and I was like, yes, made it. All kind of price per user stuff. It's great. And then the Americans, if you're listening, you ruined it for everyone, your housing crisis. And then it came over here. It was you, wasn't I? and it stopped. Like everything stopped. Hampshire County Council suddenly lost £1 million to some Icelandic bank, and the company over the road, they had to skinny everything up, and that's it. Just ended up stopped. So I was still doing stuff on the side, even though I was working with this agency. I still had my own little websites going, and I had a PT directory site, which was fun, where you clicked on an area of Great Britain and it expanded out, and then you clicked on it again, expanded. Really cool little stuff like that. So I was still doing that. So the transition to going on my own was literally just like finished. They made me work right up to the end. So finish on the Friday, start my own thing on the Monday with, like you're sitting there thinking, right, now I've got to replace my income. And so, so I just set about, that kind of process. And the thing I did there, which is something that I've advised people to do since, was I approached pretty much every marketing company in Southampton area, Hampshire area pretty much, who said they offered website design, but didn't offer a SEO pay-per-click. And I said to them, look, I'll sit behind there as a white label. I'll charge you this. You can mark it up to this, and you can offer it to your clients. They've already got the clients. There's a natural upsell from there. And I was like, after a little bit of time, I was, if you searched digital marketing or online marketing, whatever it was at the time, the popular terms, the like 8 of the 10 that came up on Google at the time, I was the person behind the scenes doing it. So it was great. I was getting all these referrals coming in, and it was fantastic. But I had this conscious thing. I only ever wanted to be me.
Yep.
On my own. I was not interested in hiring people. And so that's what I did. So I just sort of got a bit selective about who I work with, and that.
I think that's smart, because a lot of time people do think, I have to be the business myself. And actually, there's a lot of companies who have work for, if we just take copywriters, for example, you can go and do some work for agencies. All right, it might not be the glitz and glamour of being an A-lister who's charging 200k per package. But as you say, in your local town, are there enough companies who could send work your way to provide you a decent living? Probably. It's another avenue, isn't it? And I think sometimes looking for those opportunities, go to where the money already is and say, look, you're not offering this, you can charge more for it, just give me a cut of it. Like, everyone wins at the end of the day.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like, how can you give that person a chance to win?
Yeah.
And that's what I offered him. And I said, look, you just go, all you have to do is you're building a website. All you have to do is you say to him, do you want this to rank in Google? And do you want ads to run to this thing?
Yep.
Happy days.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that applies to email, applies to social media stuff. So it was simple. And they had, a lot of those businesses had a lot of clients already. And I would just, to be honest, there was one around the corner from here called Toolkit Websites. They're still going now. Brilliant company, did sort of like templated websites in a way, you charge a monthly fee. And I used to send them, like, every now and again, send them a box of cupcakes to the office. They loved it. I remember I sent them one for Halloween. I sent them like Halloween-themed cupcakes. And it was so much more powerful than me sending them like cash back.
Yeah.
And it cost me like 25 quid. But they were sending me so much business. But yeah, it was brilliant. I think it is probably, and I went to a networking event a couple of years ago, and this bookkeeper just started up, said to me afterwards, said, think about running some ads. And I just listened to what you were saying. And I said, don't run ads. I said, your clients, you've probably got like a whole bunch of accountants in your town who are frustrated at the state of their clients' books. And they'll be only too happy to promote you to their clients. Go and take accountants out for coffees and dinners. That's all you need to do. That's it.
I think people like this idea that, I can fire off cold emails and get business, or I can run ads and business comes to me. And I'm 100% for that, because it's simple, it's scalable, it's repeatable, there are systems. But at the same time, go and actually talk to people. Like, just go and look for opportunity. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I'm kind of skipping forward a bit here, but that from the outside seems to be a bit more what you do now in terms of looking for people who are, I'm thinking about the chiropractic, I don't know how you define it, but that client that you've got in terms of the kind of stuff you've gone there, where you've said you've got a really successful business, but you're missing these loopholes, so to speak. I can fix those for you. So what sort of the process do you do now in terms of that kind of thing?
So I still have some retainer clients, simple, run ads, whatever they want to do. It's mainly ads, all right? With a lot of consulting as well, because you know what it's like. You can't just drive traffic somewhere and hope that they get it, because they won't. Not unless they're a really savvy company, they've got that dialed in. With the other side of it, which is what you're talking about there, is I take on partners more so than anything else now, because what that means is because what's happened is, since I've been doing this over the 15 years, running ads, doing any kind of marketing as a service has been quite commoditized. So it's a race to the bottom in terms of price. Not for everybody, and obviously the sort of clients that we go after aren't in that mindset. And so for me, it makes sense to speak to those clients and say, well, look, you've got this great product, right? You've got a brilliant way of selling it. Rather than me charge you a retainer, why don't we partner on this? You'll get me on your side, and I'll get this running. And there's a whole gamut of ways you can work with that. So the one you're talking about there, the chiropractic guy, he's quite well known in the chiropractic niche as a teacher of other chiropractors. And he had a book. I said, well, we could just video the book, because you need to see the techniques he's teaching. So I said, we'll bring it to life as a course, and we'll split the revenue on that course. So we recorded it, stick it all onto a Kajabi platform. And really what we do now is we've got a really eloquent little book funnel set up. So we run ads to a landing page where there's a book for sale, $20. They buy it, they go into the upsell process where they buy there's an order bump, and then there's an upsell after that. Really simple. He's getting on running his chiropractic business fine and going, and we're doing this whole course on, I'm completely running that as a partner. And I love that because, I can come to you with ideas. Also, it's great for him because an example that I use quite a lot is that he messaged me on a Friday, hey, Tim, I need a PDF download for some people I'm teaching. I was like, yeah, sure, I could fit you in next week. He's like, it's actually tomorrow. I was like, oh. Now, if that was a normal client, then you can't always just drop everything for one client, although I probably would have tried to do my best to do it. But I knew that he was off in front of 50 of his ideal clients that weekend. And the chances were he was going to sell a number of the course that we've got a partnership in. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. So I got the PDF download for him. It was done in an hour or something. Off he went to Madrid or wherever it was. Next day, he's presenting to these chiropractors. At the end of the weekend, he sells 5 or 6 of these courses. And I'm at home at the weekend playing with my kids. Yeah. Right? So that's why I like that sort of thing. It kind of divorces the time for money thing, which is the bottleneck for what a lot of people are doing in the service type industry. Yeah.
So I guess a lot of copywriters will think, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do something like that for a client because I'm more cemented in their business. As you say, it gets out of the time for money type thing. What are the key metrics you look for in terms of the right people to approach for that?
Yeah. So James Schramko said this to me I think it was on his podcast, that you can't steer a parked car. So you need a company with motion already. Like someone coming to you that's a complete beginner with no list, no audience, whatever, it's going to be really hard for you to get some quick wins with that. Whereas somebody who's already got a business running and they've already got some momentum and they've got so far on their own, you introduced me to someone recently and they've got so far, really far on their own, but they just need help amplifying it. Mm. And that's an ideal partner because you already know they've got everything else sorted out, right? All you need to do is come at them with the ideas and the whole knowing which screw to turn story, right? So we want leverage. So you don't want to start with complete newbies unless they're coming to you and they're like, we're a software, we've got this backing, right? We've got no audience yet, but we've got this backing. That would be a case by case basis. But I'm looking for people. My own filters are like, maybe they wrote a book, so they've already got a course or a recipe of how they do stuff. Sort of a IP built in, if you like. They've already got a whole bunch of clients, hopefully a list. Maybe they're well known in their field. So for me to sort of improve that business is quite quick and easy. So I could do deals with those people without taking a fee up front. You could do it with a fee plus a percentage. I've done that too, where you say, well, look, the chiropractor guy, I'll build you the course. That's a lot of work up front. I'm going to charge you for that bit. But the month-to-month marketing a bit, we're going to do as a rev share.
Yep. I think a lot of people are almost intimidated by going after bigger clients like that. They think, I'm going to go for the newer business because I would definitely know more than them, so I can help them more. But exactly as you said, you go to someone and go, I can write emails for you. If they've not got an email list, well, then you've got to build the list. You've got to think about a lead magnet. You've got to think about growing it organically, growing it paid. Then how do you do the ads? Who do you get to do those? Whereas you go to a business where their emails are currently a 6 out of 10 and you make them an 8 out of 10, that might, if they're already doing 200k a month, that might add 20k a month to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really good point that don't think that an established business won't hire you if you're slightly newer. Actually, they're more likely to hire you because you can have a bigger impact on their bottom line ultimately.
Well, I can tell you a story about that.
Please go for it.
So Brian Kurtz, if you're watching this, I'm sure you know who he is.
I think when if Brian was watching this.
Brian. Hi, Brian. I'm going to tell a story about you. It's actually about Chris Mason, who's his marketing partner, right? He's a copywriter. And I was talking to him, and he was saying that actually that he came to Brian with an idea. And Brian said, yeah, go and do it. And they work as a partner on that. And Chris was sharing with me some tips about like, I'll give you one tip, right? So you go to someone's website who and they sell stuff. Maybe you're buying stuff yourself now, like a course or something. You go through a checkout and you land on the checkout page and you look at it and you think, well, firstly, can I improve this? I could improve this. He's not got this and this on there. Secondly, an order bump would sit perfectly here, right? And they haven't got one. Why don't you approach the entrepreneur and say, look, I've got this idea for your business. I reckon we could add X amount of income on there. Let's go 50-50 on the bump. You could create the order bump yourself, or you could say, I'll put all the mechanics behind that. I'll do the campaign behind it, whatever. And they might just say to you, go for it. Because as far as they're concerned, like having an order bump in there doesn't hurt anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just the improvements in the page. You could do it as a fee. But imagine if you start adding 10% on top of what they're already selling, and they're putting a lot of volume through their shopping cart. Well, that could pay you way more than a fee over time. I've seen it happen over and over again.
I think that's the thing in terms of the outreach side of things for me. It's like, it isn't a numbers game. Well, certainly when you're starting out, you need enough volume in terms of who you're speaking to, who you're exposing yourself to in the metaphorical sense, and all that kind of stuff. Before we get into too much trouble. So you need a certain amount in terms of volume like that, but you also need that more personalized approach. Maybe when you get a bit more established in your career and you've got that time where you don't need clients. But for me, I'm sort of debating at the moment, I might want to sign another freelance client. So what I'm doing is I'm actually looking at people who I like their staff, I might buy it anyway, and I'm going through their funnels and I'm thinking, okay, I signed up the other day to a guy who's got an £8 a month membership site. And I've already seen a few bits where I go, you know what, he's doing that okay, but he could do that a lot better. Someone else, he sells PDFs, recipe books, that kind of thing. I'm going to go and buy a couple of those ebooks. It will cost me $30, $40. But as you say, quick screen record, send them the video, go, love what you're doing, bought your stuff. However, have you thought about doing X, Y, and Z? It's a very easy win. If nothing else, as long as they see that video, they're not going to think that guy's a dick. They're probably going to go, okay, he's gone out of his way to do something for me. Even if it's not a client now, it might be a client down the line. So taking a bit of extra time to look at someone's business and see where you can actually offer value rather than just saying, I can run ads or I'm a copywriter. It's like they get told that every day. What they don't get told is, here's a specific thing that you can do. Maybe you say, I'm going to charge up front for it. Maybe you do more of the partnership thing, the rev share deal, but it's just that reciprocity, I guess.
Well, exactly that. And what you could do is you could approach, like, say you approach an e-commerce store or whatever, right? Well, you could actually approach someone who's as a conversion rate optimization specialist, or even somebody who does SEO or pay-per-click. Who's like, not that long ago, I had a client. I don't do SEO anymore, right? But I had a client came to me and said, oh, we've just found you on Google, so you must know what you're doing. Little did they know. So they contact me. So all our rankings have just suddenly dropped. They were a very high volume in the marine space. So they weren't far from here. Very high volume e-commerce store. And I said to them, I know what it is. I can help you with this. So like, all their rankings are completely dropped. And so I gave them a fee, and I went into their website, and I was like, right, yeah, it's just a file that had somehow robots.txt file. Actually, if you're watching, it somehow maybe it was malicious, I don't know, but somehow this robot.txt file has basically de-indexed that whole site. So I literally know which screw turn on. They were delighted. I said, like, while I'm here, I'll have a look at your website stuff. So I go through the analytics. And they had a cart abandonment rate of 90%, which was insane. And I said to him, I said, look, I think I can help you with this. So but I'm not going to charge you. I'll charge you. I think it's like 20% of all of the saved or found revenue that I'll generate for you, right? The guy never took me up on it, which I thought was utter madness. But it did get me thinking that there are lots of people in your area that have the clients that you need that they don't compete with you. So somebody who spends all day every day looking at other people's analytics might spot there's an abandonment issue. Well, they could give you a call, and then you could then. So you get. I'm always looking for ways they can get not one lead but several. We go back to the kitchen thing. I didn't want to sell one oven and one fryer at a time, so I then approached a company that actually sold whole kitchens, and I know I got their contracts off them. So I'm then selling 2 fryers, 2 ovens, Bay Maries, you know what their name is, bashing walls down, building stuff, right? So so now fast forward, I try and look at the same leverage points now. Who can help me get there quicker? I think it's Dan Sullivan's got a book, hasn't he, called Who Not How?
Yep.
Yeah. So you could easily find people that already have your clients, do deals with them. So look, I can help with abandonment rates. If you've got a client that you've spotted has terrible abandonment rates, or their conversion rate's pretty poor, or whatever it is they see, then they could provide you, maybe it's a couple of clients a month or whatever, but you have 10 of them on your books. All you have to do is send them cupcakes, right?
Well, it's about adding value, I suppose, which is a term that's thrown around a lot, and I think overused, and probably people say it without actually doing it. But it's like one of the guys who I mentor, he has a yoga studio as a client, and every month he tries to give them new business ideas. So the other month he said to them, look, you've got a good retention rate, we can make it better. Let's do a print newsletter for people. It's going to cost you a bit of money, but actually, if we have 2 people extend their membership by a month, you're going to make more money. So he charged them a bit for doing that. All of a sudden, they've got another thing, members talk about it, they do a member of the month, all that kind of stuff. You're not just writing copy, you're not just doing SEO, you're not just doing ads, which, as you said, is a commodity. You're a person who can actually add value to that business and add revenue to it. And I think certainly now with AI and from a copywriting perspective, if you can do that for clients, you kind of become maybe not quite indispensable, but it's a lot harder to use AI when you've got someone there who's not just only writing your emails. They are actually every single month or week or whatever coming in and going, that'll make you more money. That'll make you more money. Yeah. That'll stop you losing so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite funny. So when I finished my sports studies degree, right, it did qualify me for a single thing. At the time, lottery funding wasn't a thing, so you didn't have all these sports scientists around, whatever. And I remember joining the gym locally to me shortly afterwards, and this is 21-year-old Tim, right? And the guy in the gym comes over and goes, do you want a program written? This is fitness first, right? Do you want a program written? And I go, no, it's okay. Sorry, I got really embarrassed myself. It's okay, I've just done a sports studies degree. And I listen to it now and I think, what an idiot. I knew nothing about lifting weights or whatever, right? I thought, I suppose, and it's one of the things like my first job out of university working in my parents' firm, I put, Tim Tam had a BSc on the thing. It's like, yeah. But it's like you just sort of, you have this kind of need to not impress people, but you think you know more than you do at certain points. And I can't remember what my point about that was, but you took me back there for a second, like, oh yeah, don't worry about that. I've got a sports studies degree. But it was more to do that was it, the AI thing, right? So you get clients who go, they go, oh, I don't need you to write emails for me. I use AI.
Yeah.
And it's the same equivalent for me. Like of me saying that back then it's so naive for me to say, well, coming out of doing a sports studies group, I had no idea of actually the mechanics of how you work out. And it's the same thing now as like someone who has no idea about how emails are constructed and how the best way to form arguments and all the rest of it, sound like brand voice, all those kind of things. To then go, no, so I've got AI to write this. It's the same to me. It's like you do an okay job of writing those emails. There's so much more that goes into it, and yeah, fine, give it a go. But you'll probably be thinking, scratching your head, going, why isn't this working? And the answer will be is because it's 99.9% the same as every other person that's using the same AI.
I've certainly seen that switch back quite quickly. I think probably 18 months ago, a lot of people started using AI for stuff. And now I see a lot of people moving back because, firstly, I think audiences can kind of spot AI generated copy. Secondly, AI can't think like a strategist or an experienced marketer. And I also just think people realize that actually it's not as good, as in you can look at a piece of AI generated copy if you don't know much about copy and go, oh, that sounds really good. But if you don't know kind of what's going behind it, it's very, well, if you flip that around, if you do know what goes behind copy, you can see, okay, there's no unique mechanism here. There's no sort of emotive pain points. There's no like particular future pacing that's very good. So I do think we're seeing a switch back. Whether AI will then get even cleverer, probably will, but as long as you're ahead of the curve with stuff and it comes back to adding value again, I suppose, really. Totally.
And I don't get me wrong, I think AI is a brilliant research tool. Like it will get you to where you need to get to much quicker.
Yep.
But it's I've got a tool that pulls weeds out in the lawn, right? And that's a brilliant tool. Although I've got far too many weeds to, But anyway, but it's not going to do it all on its own.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wake up in the morning and there's weeds pulled up for me and put in the trash or whatever. So it's a tool, and it's a very efficient, very good tool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will get better, and there'll probably be people listening to this going, like AI advocates going, no. But recently I was on Facebook and I was looking at something, and Ryan Levesque, the Ask Method guy, he asked a question on something, and I see someone answer this thing, quite a comprehensive answer, and Ryan responded, "This seems like an AI answer to me." And the guy replied, "Yes, it is." And I thought, why?
Yeah.
Why outsource like your own human experience at that point?
Well, I've got a print newsletter, Coffee Shop Frontline. I tried writing a feature of that with AI. It took me longer to put the prompt in and to edit the prompt to sound like me than it would have done just to write it from scratch. And I did that as an experiment. I would have, had I actually done that and AI churned out something good, I would have put full disclosure in the article, this was AI generated, or I used this, and then I'd have probably written the next article about how I did it. But it just made me think, I think if you want to get your voice out there, maybe if you've got an amazing prompt, but I've spent a lot of time refining prompts and still things need a lot of editing. So for me, it's like, as you say, it's a tool, it's a research method, it's not bad for first draft, but if you want genuine copy that people believe, I think you've got to learn how to do it yourself, even if you then use AI to refine it, really.
I think that's exactly it. Again, comes back to it being a tool. And I wrote a book recently on AI. Right, I've got a really brilliant tool that writes the book. I started reading it. I got bored within my first paragraph. Maybe it's because I'm boring. Maybe the AI really has done a brilliant job at copying me. I don't know. But I looked, I thought, there's no way in the world I could have. But the tool itself interviewed me. Literally interviewed me about the whole subject. It was very clever. But when I sat back and I read this thing, I was like, But what I have done is I've taken my own words and I've talked into a phone. I've then transcribed that, stuck it into, have you used Claude? Isn't you? That one?
Yeah, I used that quite a
really
bit.
recently. Stuck it in there, said, can you tidy this up so it's like a book? Great. Still my words. It's probably sorted out a few errors in there for me and it's formatted it.
Yeah.
brilliant. That's where I'd see it really valuable at the moment.
Yeah.
I say at the moment because, I'm sitting here, I'm 50, right? When I went to school, and then there was no internet. And so the pace that's happened since leaving school now, it's just insane.
Yeah.
And I was in the airport last October, and at Heathrow Terminal 5, and I'm walking through it, and there was a trash can bin in front of me, and it's a robot. It's moving around, sucking things up off the floor, right? And then look over to my left, there's a guy sat on a bench with his Mac, with his AirPods in on the internet. Yeah, this thing that's all around us at all times. Look up to my right, up on the thing, there's a 60-foot full HD screen with all these things going on it. And then through the windows, I see a driverless pod that drives from one terminal to the other. And it suddenly hit me, I'm in the future. I'm in Total Recall. You remember Total Recall, that film?
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't see was the lady with 3 boobs.
And hoverboards.
There was no hoverboards, yeah. But it was like, I'm in the future here. It's all crept up on us a little bit. And I think the way it's the pace of it, since AI became a big thing a few years ago. So we're sitting here now. This will probably be one of those that aged quickly, because we will all be sitting there writing AI probably at some point. Yeah, I get that. But for now at least, you can spot AI. aka what Ryan Levesque said to this guy, I can see that's AI.
Yeah.
And also, a guy you met, Steve, he wrote a book in AI. And so he wrote the book, he literally gave it the chapter titles, whatever, and then he wrote a book and then he's published it and whatever. And I thought, great to publish the book and everything, brilliant, but slightly loses something for me and diminishes it slightly because it's AI.
Certainly anything artistic, I think. We buy into art not because of how it looks, and we often buy books not because of how they are, and read poetry, listen to music. A lot of it's the human element behind that. That's what you're buying into, I think. And that's why I've read a lot of debates about will AI replace kind of traditional arts and that kind of thing. And I just can't see it doing that because it misses the human element. Changing gears a bit though, the one thing I wanted to talk about was, from the outside, you definitely seem very much like family comes first for you, everything. Yeah. I'm guessing that's the case, and if so, how do you manage that with business and everything else you got going on?
So my business is designed around them, completely around them. I had all that time mentioned before where me and my wife were like ships in the night, which was a real good lesson because it was one of those. I wanted to be with her more than I wanted to be out running around with clients in the evening, right? And the same goes for my kids. When you have children, it changes your life completely again. For me, in a good way, I always wanted to be a dad, and I'm lucky enough to be one. And so my life revolves around them. So I do the school runs when I want, both pick up or drop off, depending on, my wife, she runs her own business too. I start when I get home from the school run, and finish before they come back in case I do the school run. And when they do come back, because I work from home ever since COVID, I've literally worked from home, and if I need to do other things, I'll go out. So if I need privacy, or whatever, I'll go out or hire somewhere or whatever. But like a lot of people, I will have times where I need to do stuff in the evening after the kids are in bed or whatever. So I'll do them. But for me, the way I build my business is around flexibility to fit around them. The whole partnership thing, really, and we haven't really touched on it. But I had significant health problems. I had a kidney transplant, and then I had cancer. Right, not at the same time. Obviously, it was good enough to give me a few years in between. And the first time when I had my surgery for the kidney transplant, I was sat there on my bed. I'd just been told, this could, you could not come out of this, basically. The surgeon sitting down telling me all this. Said goodbye to my wife and my family that were there. The next thing I'm doing is, as I go off, just before I'm going down for surgery, I message my clients, could you just settle that invoice? So I didn't want anyone else to have to deal with that if I'm incapacitated or not here anymore, right? Could you just settle that invoice? You said you would last week, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to hear from me this week, that kind of thing. And I thought to myself afterwards, I don't want to be in that position again where I'm worried about what clients are doing and bills and stuff like that, this could be the last thing I ever do, right? So then fast forward to my second big surgery, which was in 2022. That time I actually decided to launch a new partnership that day. So I'd set everything up automatically to go out on that day. See, I went in for the surgery, the emails went out. The surgery was like all day, it's 14 hours long. Came out of that, woke up about a day and a half later. First thing I do, like through one eye, I'm in the high dependency unit. I'm like, oh, wonder how that launch went. Right? But this time, because I wanted to see, I was curious. And sure enough, I look on my phone and I can see all the sales that come in. I mean, it was a relief, because you never know, do you? But, I think we did something like 25 grand of collected on the day of my surgery, and payment plans up to about 50 grand. And that one partnership, it over the course of that, it launched quite a nice course. But I did it on that day partly because it was ready, but partly because I wanted to prove to myself, like, the ultimate inflexibility, right? I'm out of it. I've got, there's no way I can work, right? So I've got location freedom, I've got time freedom, and now because money coming in, I've got the financial freedom that brought that day. And that launch, and another one I'd arranged for the day after, that kind of, at that time, gave me the car. I didn't have to sort of write to clients, say, can you settle that bill or whatever. And I know, I like you, I like to keep things in the background for rainy days, but it was just nice to have a positive thing happen like that at the time. And it just reinforces, like, the ability that we have in this day and age. And I mentioned being at school and the internet wasn't around. And if I now, like, so I went on a school reunion a few weeks ago, like 34 years, and seeing some of these people, and a lot of them, like, you asking them what they do now. Obviously, it's what we all do, and they're like, they're doing traditional trades or working for these companies, and you're there going, well, when they're like, what do you do? And you're trying to explain what you do, and it's like, I work on the internet, but and they're like, oh, what's so we live in a time where it's just there's so few barriers for anyone to do anything. Like, you can, if you want to get a client today, you probably could, right? You could go out into the town and start talking to people. I remember, do you remember Gerard Price? Do you know him? So he started Linden Homes, right? He sadly recently passed away, which is very, very sad. Then he started Bargate Homes, which is probably just as big as Linden Homes. And he said to me once that if you had £10 left in the world, right, he would go to the hotel lobby of the Dorchester and he'd buy a single drink, although probably now you wouldn't get £10. But he would just sit there all day, just have one drink and sit there and just talk to people, because you can then network with people, and and that's what he would do to build himself up, if that's all he had. And I think that's a real cool bit of advice. But we live in a time where we can do anything we want for very, very little. We've got phones on us. Everyone's got a phone. You could very easily start something for your phone.
And that's one thing that I very much associate with you, is positivity. As in, you always, well, like you said there's business everywhere. There's so many opportunities. Do you feel like you've always had that outlook, or has actually the health challenges and things made the positive outlook even greater for you?
Yeah, people say that, and obviously I have definitely had my moments with not feeling positive, and something doesn't work, because it doesn't all go well, does it? I mean, most of the time you try things and they don't work. I think the important thing is to keep trying. I mean, the health issues have taught me a lot. When I was getting quite sick with the kidney side of things, people would say to me, how are you? And I decided to start using adjectives like, is it adjectives? Fantastic, amazing, incredible, brilliant, wonderful, right? Not just good or fine or okay. Even if I wasn't, and you'd get the old head tilt. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, yeah, right. Because at the end of the day, I always felt like, if you're going to have an organ fail, right, kidney's the one. And then with cancer, I got found at stage 1, right? Surgery is possible. Like, sometimes you have to look at the other side of it and go, wow, they found that completely by accident. They weren't even looking for it. And so you've got to feel grateful. There's two things. One is I can't remember where I thought about this or where I got it from, but I was thinking about things like legacy and all those kind of things that people get wrapped up in, and making your mark in the world and influence and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Every single book that's been written in history, every single person that is like, there's a statue of them or whatever, right? They've done anything good in the world. One day it's going to all explode and we're all going to just be a pile of dust floating around the universe, right? So none of it's going to matter, right? So if you get stressed about things and worried about things like that, then you could have that kind of attitude that we are here, we're present, we're okay. And the other thing is that there's this great meme that I've seen recently, a video thing. There's this 20-year-old life coach, and it's like 20-year-old life coach solves anxiety, right? And he's sitting there and he's got an interview thing. And he goes, anxiety, well, you just don't worry about it, mate. That's it. And then we say in our house at the moment, I say it's the kids, like the kids got something going on and there's something, it's stressing them out when we go, Zav. And he's like, what? Just don't worry about it, mate. And then it just breaks it, and then it resets, right? And I'm not saying like everything's blasé and everything's, because people got real problems, right? Everyone's got something. But at the end of the day, like I used to worry about because of the health issues I've got, kidney transplant, take a lot of medicine, a lot of stuff that then caused me to have the cancer, right? So I understand that there's things ahead, right? There's other bumps in the road ahead for me. I know that. And I used to worry a lot about like, what's this going to do to longevity? Am I going to be able to see my kids, if they go to university, graduate, or have kids of their own, get married or whatever, these big life milestones. I used to worry about it, it used to keep me up at night. And then one day I thought, well, no one's got the answer to that question. And I stopped worrying about it like that.
Yeah.
Didn't worry about it again. And what it's done is made me more present. So I now think like, I'm putting the kids to bed at night, like last night, I've got a little summit going on at the moment, as you know, and I'm tempted to look at my phone and see, right, is there any question? Look, just don't worry about it, mate. I'm here with the kids and I'm enjoying reading them a story, whatever. Just try and be present, whatever you're doing. And and so that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it just helps to offset, like being positive for me is the only choice, because even if you've got a day left on the earth, why be miserable?
No, it definitely does answer, I think. And it's that whole control what you can, don't worry about what you can't, which I'm not an expert in at all, but I think always trying to reinforce that. And it's absolutely not on the same scale. But the other week, I had a van crash into one of my rental properties, and they phoned me up the day before I was doing that race across Scotland and told me, I'm like, right, well, from tomorrow, I'm running across Scotland. I can't deal with this. Yeah. So let's get in place what we can today. Then you can't contact me for 4 or 5 days. There's literally nothing I can do about it. I'm not turning my phone on. I'm not stopping this race. And it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, that actually isn't nearly as stressful. It's like, I'm going to do what I can today. After tomorrow, the house could fall down. I can't do anything about it. Yeah. It's just going to have to happen the way it happens, really. I think people often not over-exaggerate, but they stress too much about, what if I lose a client? Well, that's a subjective feeling. That may not happen. And if it does, there's very, very easy ways to overcome that, really. Yeah. So I think staying present, staying in the moment is a big thing. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there is a place. I do feel like if something bad goes wrong, you do deserve a little bit of space to mull it a bit. I mean, the other day, Waitrose run out of hummus. And for a minute or two, I had to sort of take myself off to the corner and go, right, like tomorrow the world is going to look the same as today. And they sell hummus over the road. So, yeah, I kind of make a joke of it, but you do have to give us a bit of space there. And I know, like, it's very easy and very, like you said there, like, oh, it's nothing compared to what you've been through kind of thing. And people do that all the time to me. They all go, oh, I've got this thing going on, but it's nothing compared to what you've been through. And I go, well, hang on a minute. Does it affect you every day? Yeah. Do you think about it all the time? Yeah. Well, it is the same for you, isn't it? And it's all relative, isn't it? Like, whatever you're going through. And, like, so you do have to have a bit of space to go, this is a bit of shit. You know, life's throwing me a curveball here. But don't dwell on that too much and give yourself
then the chance to go, well, hang on, what's the other side to this? Bit of perspective. And actually, hanging around people that have that perspective is good. You know, I try to veer away from people that are negative. I can't do it. You know, like, I'm not going to mention who it is, but somebody I phone up every now and again and I go, how are you? And as I'm saying the words, how are you? It's instant regret, because you know it's going to come back going, well, you know, and you're like, here we go. And then you have to sort of find a bit of space for their stuff.
Well, I remember years ago, I think I was about 17, I was at college. My parents had split up when I was like 13, 14. And my dad was always very good that he'd phone me every day, just like 2 or 3 minutes, check in, how you doing, all that kind of stuff. And I was at college, wasn't particularly enjoying college. I had a part-time job at a DIY store that I hated as well. And one day he phoned me and said, how's things? And I just went, oh, rubbish, boring. And he went, I'll be honest, if you keep on with this attitude, I'm not going to phone you every day still. Wow. He said, I'll still see you and I'll still check in with you, but we're not going to have daily phone calls because it just drags me down. It's like, if you don't like college, go and do something else. If you don't like your job, find another job. I'll be honest, I was really pissed off and I sulked for probably 2 or 3 days. Yeah. And then I went and found another job that I wanted to do, wanted to get into fitness. So I went and got a job at a leisure club rather than DIY store. And I thought, do I want to be at college? Not particularly, but it's a means to an end. I can enjoy it a bit. I can get something out of the experience. And I still think back to that. That was, 17 years ago? That one phone conversation. And again, not perfect at it. I probably strop and sulk more than I should do now. But that was a big thing of, okay, actually, sort your shit out. There's stuff you can do with most things in life. And if you can't, as you say, yeah, what's the point stressing?
And actually, someone like that in your life happens to be your father in this case. I think that's very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
But seek those people out. Those are the sort of mentors you want, right? The ones that can be brutally honest with you, like brutally honest.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's the only way, like, to get the message. And yeah, so I think that negativity breeds negativity, obviously, and so I like to hang around people that make me laugh. I like laughing a lot, right? I like. Before I go to bed at night, I might watch some reels on my phone that made me giggle, and it's quite funny because, you know, my wife's lying next to me in bed trying to get to sleep, and so the bed's moving. I'm like, no, I'm just watching reels, and I'm just trying to find like something that's funny that's gonna make me laugh, and so I think that's a real, I think it's really important for everybody, just to have that, because, you know, we know what it's like if you hang around people that can speak, like your dad said, he very like. Honestly say to you, like, I can't do this.
Yeah, hold your feet to the fire. Yeah. So it talks a lot about being in the moment, but flipping the script on that.
Yeah.
What's next?
Right. What's next is so I'm going down the newsletter rabbit hole at the moment. I really like the model. I know it's funny because you've been writing newsletters for like 7 years without missing a beat. And I've been working behind the scenes of other clients a lot, but it's time to do my own thing. So I'm producing a newsletter at the moment. It's like hub content for other stuff. Still do the partnerships. Partnerships are a really important part of where I make my income. I've got some real exciting ones in the fire at the moment. It is as with the existing ones. And the funny thing is, right, so I was actually re-listening to some of my summit, some of the talks. And some of the stuff we said today, right? So it's now making me think, all right, some of my current partners, I know we've got more room for more stuff. We're talking about adding an order bump. Well, okay, there's a partner that's got a few offers we can add an order bump to. We talked about AI. One of the things I think AI can work is cloning oneself, right? So got a client in the States who's like a very prominent doctor in the neuro space, right? He wants to retire, but he's got all these courses. So people can have all these questions. So one of the things we can do is feed AI with all his stuff that sits alongside as a companion on these courses. That would be a really cool feature. So he can sort of retire. I mean, I don't know how technically that will work at the moment, but we'll figure it out. Just little things like that. So sort of thinking about like innovation, about new partnerships and things like that. And in addition to that, and all of that stuff I'll share in my newsletter, which is basically what really I find really cool is the way I started the newsletter was, if you're ever in a group on Facebook or you see something online and somebody's like, I just made 500 grand on my course. And so you go, let's have a look at this. And it's like, it's Linda from Lincolnshire. You're like, what's Linda from Lincolnshire up to? Oh, she's a horse whisperer. And you're like, what? And then you go down the road order looking at stuff. Like, Linda's got a course about horse whispering. She made 500 grand on it. And she posts and think, didn't know what I was doing 6 months ago. I've got no clue about marketing. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
So my newsletter is called Remarkable Creators. And I want to highlight people like that because I want to give other people inspiration of those things that they maybe not thought of. Chatting to a guy the other day, his first ever business was with his mum and dad selling koi carp online. Fish. I just love those stories because I just love the way they come about. I love the fact that they're different. I love the fact that the people out there are growing quite big businesses on their own, like with no staff, maybe some outsourced stuff. Because that for me, I've always, like I said at the very start, very purposely on my own, never wanted a team, never wanted, and actually I described the other day as you've got the QE2, right? It's a cruise liner, big, very cumbersome. You try and turn one of those things around or even stop it takes a long time. Then you got a speedboat, small, nimble, can change direction very quickly. I like to be speedboat, not the cruise ship. That's my analogy, which is great because in Southampton, just it's away from the cruise ship, the port. And so that's what I like to do. That's certainly the rest of my career is going to be in that. So yeah,
love it, perfect. And then final question: where can people go to find out more about you and see what you're up to?
So the best thing to do would be to go to remarkablecreators.com. That's my newsletter and that's my hub content. That's where you can find out more about me. And it'd be the most useful to your listeners. Right? My own personal website would be more useful to me. So go to remarkablecreators.com and that's where you'll find some useful stuff.
Love it. Perfect. Thank you for your time, mate. Really appreciate it. And as always, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Anything you want to know, any questions, either just send me a message or pop them in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. And we'll catch you again next time.